Hello guys, it's Ian Patchett here from the Newton Abbot Learning Community and the Dawlish Learning Community. I'm an SSCO and I work for Newton Abbot College. If you don't know who I am, I'm here today to talk to you about some simple and easy steps for Interhouse activity, how to set it up, the benefits of Interhouse activity, and how to set up a role in the programme once you've done those first steps. So I'm just going to talk you through all of that, and hopefully it will be useful to you. And likewise, if you've got any questions at the end, please email me and I'll give you all of my email details at the end of the presentation. So I guess the first thing is to look at kind of what is Interhouse activity. Simply, to put it simply, Interhouse activity is a competition that's held within your school. So sometimes it might be called intra-school sport or Interhouse activity, and it could look like the following. So it could be a class versus class activity, simply playing something like a dodgeball match. So it could be something within a class in itself. It could be a house versus house activity. So you could put your children into different houses within the school's house system, and they could play a variety of different sports. So for example, a football match. It may be that you want something a little bit less competitive, and you get them to take part in a sports festival where they take part in a range of different activities, and they go from station to station, activity to activity, and during that time they take part in different activities and score points for their house as they do that, or score points for their class, however you're going to work it. And then you've kind of got some slightly less direct competition, a little bit more indirect, is where you might do something that's a little bit more competitive, like an athletics competition. And again, the students might go on a carousel basis and go from each activity to the next, compete for their house, score points, and then you might have that little bit of direct competition towards the end where they take part in some races and some relays. And I think at this point, it's important to remember all those different things. They are inter-house or intra-school sport activity, and it's important for you guys to decide what you want from your inter-house activity, what your aim is, who your students are, and what you think will be best for them. But we'll talk about that more later as we go through. So, benefits of inter-house activity. It's a great opportunity to showcase the skill set of your students. So you might have some students where in the classroom, day-to-day, school life isn't always great for them, but in those key moments of an inter-house or sporting event, that is really where they get their chance to shine, get their chance to showcase their skills. And I think sometimes for some students, these could be the key moments in the year that are the most important moments in their school year, and their most important moments to show to fellow students and also to show to teachers and staff alike what they can do. So for some students, it really, really is a big deal. And I've put the next point, I've put sort of teacher to teacher and student rapport is developed. So I know myself when we do things at Newton Abbot College and we do inter-house activities, not only do you develop that rapport amongst the student and the teacher, also a great opportunity for staff to develop a good, strong rapport amongst each other, because sometimes once you get to the point where you've organised your inter-house activity, it can be an enjoyable experience once you have done the legwork behind it. And again, you know, you get that kind of that friendly focus and approach amongst the rest of the teachers, from teacher to teacher. So it can actually be a bit of a morale booster amongst staff as well. And not only that, it is a positive experience between student and teachers. So it really, really does get teachers to see students in a different light, to see their competitive side, to see their sportsmanship, and all those different things like resilience and whatnot. So it's a really, really important thing for the whole of the school to embrace, and it really can create that good feeling amongst everyone involved. Next thing, significant experience. I think we can all remember, if we look back on our childhood experiences, good and bad, no doubt, but we can all remember those key significant experiences at school, whether it was an inter-house competition, whether it was a sports day, whatever it was. But we do remember those moments. So if you really, really think about it, inter-house activity does have that opportunity to really provide students with a lifelong experience. And I think that is something actually we probably don't realise, we probably don't always consider it, but actually is a really, really important thing. And obviously, that experience is going to differ for a lot of people, but generally there's no reason why we can't make it a positive experience for everyone who's taking part. Again, you get the social benefits, as we've kind of already spoken about, and the health-related benefits, and not only from taking part on that day, but who knows, the students may then develop their confidence and competence and want to continue and take part in school sport or general sports activity outside of this one key moment, this one key experience that they've had. And again, it can really help for your whole school ethos. So you can create, develop and improve the whole school ethos towards physical activity. So there's no reason why sport, physical activity can't be something that's fun and enjoyable. And again, it can be something that the students, they know before Christmas, before Easter, before the end of the summer, they always know they're the key moments in the year where they may get to take part in some inter-house activity, and going through their school life, they always look forward to those moments in school, and they know they're an important moment and a positive moment as part of their school life. And finally, you get that evidence towards the school games mark criteria, which we'll talk about a little bit later on as well. So again, it can really, really help in those other factors, as well as all the student and staff benefits that I've already spoke about. So the next thing is getting started. So why do you want to do an inter-house competition? And that's really an important question that you need to ask yourself. Middle leaders, senior leaders at your school who may be kind of pushing you to take part in inter-house competition, is something that you all need to have a kind of a joined up approach really to actually decide on what it is you want to achieve from inter-house activity. And again, every single school is different. For some schools, it may be that you literally want to have your students take part in a positive sporting experience to develop their physical and social well-being, and you just want them to get out to enjoy some sport, play some sport, and you don't want too much of a focus on competition. Likewise, at some schools that have got a really established inter-house system, you may decide, you know what, we want this to be highly competitive, and we want the students to enjoy the benefits that come from taking part in some high quality school sport and physical activity in a competitive environment. So there's two different ways that you can approach this, or it may even be that you actually decide, you know what, we want a little bit of both. We want to cater for our least able students who just want that kind of sporting experience. We also want to cater for our most able, you want that competitive experience. So I think it's really important to decide on what your school ethos is going forwards with this and what you want to achieve out of it. Next one is, who will you target? So will you target the whole school? Will this be something you do in Key Stage 2? Will this be something you do in Key Stage 1 only? Will it be something that you do all the year consistently for all year groups? Or will it be that you just target certain year groups at certain times? So it's all about getting that feel right, making sure you make the small steps initially to make sure it can be successful going forwards. And how often do you want to do it? So we just kind of spoke about that. Do you want this to be something that's every half term? Do you want this to be something that's every term? Is it something where every term you'll do an inter-house activity, but you'll target a different key stage or a different year group? So again, very important to do that, to make sure actually it may be better initially just to do less competitions and do them really well, as opposed to trying to do too much. It ends up getting watered down and it doesn't happen. And then the next thing we're going to talk about a bit later on is, can you link the competition to the specific school values that you have? So I know lots and lots of schools have different values. They have rainbow values, you might have PSHE values, whatever works for you, but you may have values that you try to promote amongst your school, social values that you want the students to take part in on a daily basis in the classroom and the wider school community. And can you promote these values in your inter-house activity? And we'll talk again about that in a minute. I guess really the important thing is, as someone who's going to plan for this, you want to make it as fun and enjoyable, and you want to get as many people on board. So there's no reason why you can't have a house system at your school if you've not already got that. I think at the moment, going around to lots of schools, it's very obvious that due to COVID and the fact that we haven't had a consistent run of being able to do inter-house activities or any kind of sporting activities in terms of extracurricular recently. A lot of students don't actually know if they're in a house system, if they're part of a colour for sports day, and a lot of students have forgotten. I've been into a lot of lessons recently where I say to students, can you get in your house or can you get in your school colour? And a lot of them don't know, because for some students it's probably well over a year since they last had to do that. So it may be a great opportunity to actually kind of relaunch it, rebrand it, and if you haven't got a house system, why not create a house system? At Newton Abbot College for a long time, we had Newton, Brunel, Telford and Curie, so famous engineers. But again, you may decide to do something slightly different. You may decide to do famous authors, famous landmarks, influential people. So you may name your houses after that. It may just be that you just simply give them a name related to an animal or whatever. But it would be really, really good if each student, if you could do it, can really affiliate themselves to a house when they're at your school. And then that's something they know going forwards. They are always competing for that house to kind of create that little bit of a sense of pride. And that, again, increases that competitive and that positive competitive feel and that enjoyment factor. So why not see if you can create that house system at your school? And again, as you see in the pictures there, can you make it fun and engaging? Can you give each house a colour and a picture that relates to what their house is? So the next thing is kind of that little bit of publicity. Now, obviously, in a school environment, there's so many things going on, so many things happening, but why not make your inter-house competition something that everyone is aware of, and then it creates those conversations amongst staff and students, and even parents and staff and students. So again, at Newton Abbot College, up until recently, we had several inter-house competitions that took place every year, our swimming gala, our day of sport, or our sports day as you may know it. But other than that, that was kind of all we had running. And then what's happened in the last 2 or 3 years is we've set up some annual inter-house competitions. And again, what happens there is you get random teachers among the school start asking the students how they got on in their inter-house volleyball competition. And again, it creates that positive feel, and it really kind of uplifts the fact that you are doing an inter-house competition and it kind of means something. And again, students have those positive conversation with teachers. How did you get on? Who won? Etc. etc. So there's no reason why you can't actually decide to really promote it amongst your staff and students, and actually determine some goals and some objectives of what you want to achieve from that, and share that information with your staff so that they are aware of what it is you're trying to do. Maybe I've got here determine promotion, how you want to promote the event within school. So it may be that you decide you're going to send a whole school email out. Maybe that you decide you want to promote it in staff briefing when we eventually get the opportunity to go back to that. Because actually, if it's recognised, then you're going to get more staff that are actually going to make sure it happens. They give time to it and they give it that sense of purpose. And you really, you want to get all the rest of your school staff. You want them to get on board, you want them to buy into it and have that little bit of excitement. Can they get that excitement in their classroom with their students, those key conversations talking about it? So I know you may not be someone who wants to stand up in front of the whole staff and talk about it, but just that one email, putting it in your calendar at the start of the year, putting those key dates in so all staff are aware. This is not just we may or we may not do it, they are aware that this is something that is happening, and it's part of your kind of your school year and your school timetable, as it were. And then you've got more chance of that continuation going forwards. Something that is a really positive thing that you can do from this is you can link it to your school games mark when you do your application. So obviously in the 2019-2020 year, schools weren't required to do their school games mark application due to COVID. But in the year previous to that and the year previous to that, they always ask about your intra-school sport competition or your inter-house competition, essentially. And I'm sure going forwards, that will be the case as well. So if you look here on the table, we've got our table which says it's gold, silver, bronze. So if your primary school key stage 2 of up to 50 students, 5 intra-house competitions is gold, 4 is silver, and 3 is bronze. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but as you can see, there's no reason why you can't actually start stripping this back and really looking at what it is you need to do based on your school cohort, the number of students you've got in your school, what you need to do to achieve a gold standard intra-school competition. The next thing we're going to look at is kind of getting that buy-in from staff members. So I've already said it, but add dates to the school calendar, announce the commencement of the competition staff briefing or via a whole school email, offer some help and delivery with the provision. So it may be that you're not there to oversee all of the individual competitions, but if you can maybe free up some time, which I know again is very tough, but you may swap with a class teacher, but offer those teachers some help, because some of those teachers, they may be required to oversee some sort of competition, whether it's a volleyball competition, handball, and they may have no idea what they've got to do. So maybe can you reach out to them, give them that help, give them that support, so that actually it makes it a little bit easier on those first steps, because once they do it that first time, then the second and the third and the fourth time all become much, much more simple. And again, it becomes part of the fabric of what you do on a half-termly or termly basis. So I've got an example here of a 2-year cycle for your intra-sport competition, which you could do and you just repeat it on a 2-year cycle. So we've got the green one, which links in very much with the SSP, the Dartmouth School Sports Partnership 2-year rolling cycle of competitions. And then we've got the amber one, which is kind of an alternative, and it may be that you want to kind of tailor it more towards the need of your school. Again, you don't have to use these are just examples. So if you look at these ones here, so we look at the one in green, I'll just go through the one in green. September to December, so it gives you a window to do the competition between any time between September and December, so that's 2 half terms. And then in Key Stage 2, you might do a high five netball competition, and Key Stage 1 a multi-sport festival. So again, we've got the differentiation of competitions there, because we know Key Stage 2, they're probably able to access and take part in that netball competition, but the younger guys, they may need something a little bit more simple, so a multi-sport festival. And then it goes from January to March in year 1, and you might just decide, do you know what, we're just going to do a competition for Key Stage 2, and that's just going to be gymnastics. Nothing for Key Stage 1 at this point. Again, it's not too heavy in terms of the content of what you need to do, and it's all manageable. And then April to July, you might do your Dartmoor freeball competition for Key Stage 2, and then a mini Olympics competition for Key Stage 1. By mini Olympics, again, all we're talking about is a carousel of activities. Students go around, take part, and add their scores. So that would be an example of one year of a 2-year cycle for the DSSP intra-school sport competitions. Then you've got on the right hand side, you've got the amber one, which is an alternative. So essentially some of the same competitions, but it may be that you just want to mix it up a little bit and you want to add something that you know your students really enjoy. And on that note, is I go to lots of schools and you get students who love playing dodgeball, students who love playing capture the flag or bench ball. So if students really enjoy those sports, teachers are happy to deliver them, why not? If it's going to get that engagement and it's going to get that participation, then you go for that. Because again, those sports may be the sports where your most elite don't always kind of rise completely above the rest, and the rest can kind of catch up and gain some ground. So there's no reason why you shouldn't chop and change the activities to suit the nature of your students and suit what your students really, really enjoy. And then if we just look at here, all this table is this is just based on what I've just shown you. So based on the 2-year cycles, this would be the number of competitions that you could achieve. So, and essentially it just means that you would always be hitting your gold on that. So if you were to follow the program that I suggested, you would always make sure that you would be following the gold standard and achieving the gold mark, at least for your intra-school competition. So on the left-hand side, target number of intra-school sport activities. So if we take the first one, for example, primary school with a Key Stage 2 up to 50 students, 5 activities is a targeted number. Based on what I've just shown you, that gives you 8. And I think if we just go back to that really, really quickly as well, you'll see that actually, do you know what, it is quite achievable. So if we look on this table here, the one that we produced, it is quite achievable. So between September and December, you're running 2 competitions. Between January and March, you're doing 1. and then between April and July, you're doing 2 more. So we know that is very, very achievable, and that is definitely something that we can do. On top of that, you may break your competitions from Key Stage 2. You may decide, okay, we're going to have a year 3 competition, a year 4, a year 5, and a year 6. Straight away, that gives you 4 competitions. So it doesn't mean you've just done a Key Stage 2 competition. It means you've done 4 competitions within Key Stage 2. So again, that is something that is really useful and allows you to get your numbers of competitions a little bit higher and work towards that school games mark. But again, it's completely up to you. You may decide to do 3-4 competition, a 5-6 competition. So again, that would be 2 competitions and not the 4. So if we go to our core values, so we spoke earlier about actually trying to promote those core values. So why not, when you play, let's for example say you got your students play a game of dodgeball. At the end of the game, you could do the score. So if we look here, so Newton got 2, Brunel got 3, and then you could grade each team based on the school values. So your school values, for example, I've made these up, but let's say your school values were enjoyment, engagement, thinking, and teamwork. Then what you might do is grade each team out of 5 for those core values. So there, straight away, you are going to promote positive behaviour, going to promote good behaviour, and the hope would be that it's a positive experience for everyone, and behaviour is good amongst the students, which will then lead to all those other factors. And again, you might decide, do you know what, we're going to have an overall winning team, but we're also going to have a team that performed the highest on the school values. So again, it gives that house or that class, that team, an opportunity to perform really, really well and actually achieve something even if they didn't win. And finally, everyone plays their part, because every single student can show good enjoyment, can show good engagement, can show those thinking skills and that teamwork, and actually they can still contribute towards their team, even if they're not always someone who's right at the start or winning the sprint or whatever it is. So just a summary really. So key things to remember. Consider what your aims are, what it is you want to achieve. Do you want to increase the number of people playing sport in an intra-school competition? It could be as simple as that. Do you want to create more positive experiences for sport? Do you want to create more opportunities that are not competitive but allow students to be active? Or do you want to create more competitive situations for your students to take part in? It may be a mix of all those things, and it may be different things that you do during the year. But decide what your aims are, what you want to achieve, so that you can really promote those values and that ethos amongst your students or the ones that are taking part. Get staff on board, because you will not be able to do this on your own. And if getting staff on board simply means making sure they know what the activity is, they know that they need to take part in that activity on a certain date, and they know the rules, that's great, because that's the first step in doing that. Create that interest and publicize it. Make it a big thing. Make it something that the students are aware of, staff are aware of, so everyone can get on board and look forward to taking part. And again, it's that conversation that follows on from that, and then they start talking about the next one and the next competition. And again, it's those key moments that we've said that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. Can you, the next bullet point, create a sense of pride amongst the students? So can you create a house system amongst your students? Or can you even relaunch the house system, so that if I go up to a student or you go up to a student in the school playground, you say, what house are you in? They know what house they're in, and they know what colour their house is. They know what the logo of that house is. And again, it creates that sense of pride. Next one I've put here is to work smart. So link it into your school games. Make sure that if you're doing all this work and you're organising your intra-school competition, why not make sure that actually it goes against your school games mark criteria for when you submit that at the end of the year. And at least you know you've got a gold standard for your intra-school or inter-house competition. And then the final thing that we've not really spoken about, and I think it's a really important one, is create a team to support these activities. So make sure you're not doing it on your own. Make sure you've got middle leadership and senior leadership certainly buying into what you're doing, aware of what you're doing, so they will promote it amongst the staff, because that will really help. Make sure you've got a couple of staff members who are happy and keen to get involved. And it may be that you have, within each key stage, you may have somebody that heads it up and leads it on the day. And the other thing that I think can really, really help for the buy-in and participation of the students is actually there's no reason why your year 5, your year 6 students can't help to officiate, can't help to lead, can't help to coach in these competitions. I know at Newton Abbot College, when we have year 7, year 8 leaders, it really, really helps. And I've done lots of leadership with lots of the students at your school, at the Newton Abbot and the Dawlish schools, and I know full well that lots of those students actually would be able to officiate a match and lead a little activity, whether that was a festival or an activity of that nature, and they would do a really, really good job. And sometimes the students will actually buy into them a little bit more than they will us, the students. What I will do following on from this presentation is I will put together, I'll put these PowerPoint slides on the in a booklet, and I'll also put together some rules and some activities for a simple intra-school competition cycle, as it were. So we'll link it in with the Dartmoor School Sports Partnership competitions. And it may be that you actually use that and you think, okay, September to December, I'm going to use the competitions that Mr. Patchett put down, and you'll have a rule guide in there so that you can actually then follow that. So I'll put that together, and that will be available for you guys to have following on from this. So if you do want that, or you've got any questions, simply email me, and my email address is there. So it's ipattchett@nacollege.devon.sch.uk. If you've got any questions about intra-school competition following on from this, or anything that you want to discuss further, by all means, just send me an email, and I'll be happy to get back to you or discuss it with the rest of the team and come back with the best answer. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this, and hopefully it's been some help and good luck with your intra-school competitions going forwards. Thank you very much. Cheers.